Today I wanted to talk about my story, right? And as mentioned by our lovely hosts, I wanted to talk about my ongoing journey with sports, and specifically for me, in my life, that is football. And I guess just some brief context before we begin is football has always been with me for as long as I can remember, right? From as young as I would say maybe 3 or 4 years old up until the young adult that I am today, football has been with me in a very long journey that has had its own ups and downs. And I thought I would start by sharing with you today. I'm sorry, I'll be walking around. I hope that doesn't distract you guys so much. But today I wanted to start with some of the biggest dreams and aspirations that I had for myself growing up. For as long as I can remember, I've been working towards what I would call these 3 pillars, these 3 big goals that I wanted to achieve in sports. The first was to play in the UAAP, so that's the highest collegiate level that we have here in the Philippines, as many of you would probably know. I wanted to play as a captain and as a champion. I also wanted to play professionally as a football player, whether that meant locally here in the Philippines, or somewhere else in another country, exploring the world and whatnot. And lastly, I wanted to be a national team player, right? I wanted to represent the Philippines, if not at the men's level, then at least at the high youth level, at let's say 18, 20, 22 years old. But for many reasons, which you will learn in the next few minutes, I was not able to achieve any of these dreams. As the lead title says, I failed to reach these aspirations actually. And all these pictures, and maybe for the ones in the back you may not see, these are pictures of my peers, my teammates, those who went along the journey with me, who were able to achieve those dreams. But for many reasons, I was not. And you'll find out those reasons later. But the main message that I want to make very clear as early as now is that not reaching these dreams and failing to achieve these aspirations may have been the best thing to happen to me. So not playing in the UAAP, not becoming a pro football player, and not being able to represent my country at the highest level. But to contextualize everything, right, before we get into the story, I want to make you guys understand why football means so much to me and how it's been with me in my journey from a kid to the person that I am today. So it started out as a very, very fun activity and a hobby, right? As a little kid, I remember when I was 3 or 4 years old, my parents would take me to many different sports. They'd make me try out basketball, football, swimming, karate, and whatnot. And I distinctly remember choosing football when asked by my parents because I said I like kicking things, right? And something as simple and as basic as that is what propelled me to begin this journey with football, right? Now, moving on a few years later, as I eventually, went into grade school, started playing a little bit more, I realized how great of a channel it was to make new friends. Some of my first friends studying here in Xavier and some of my best friends up to this day are teammates that I shared the field with and those that I met in Xavier. And I also had the opportunity to be able to compete abroad at a very early age, around 11 to 13 years old, playing in Australia and Thailand. And really, this was my first glimpse of what it felt like to experience the life and the world outside of the Philippines. And then as I grew older, coming into, let's say, late grade school to early high school, when a lot of, let's say, leadership and extracurricular opportunities come up, like joining, let's say, the student council or being part of different clubs, I realized how football was becoming a core part of my identity, right? As a student athlete, someone who should be able to balance his time, his effort, and have discipline in terms of being able to prioritize different things in life. And so for me, this picture on the left is a very symbolic picture for me. It was actually taken by a former Xavier faculty. And this was a picture of me studying for my Chinese exam immediately after I got substituted out of the game. And for me, this is a representation of how much of a role football played to me as I grew up, but also how much it molded me into having some of the key traits and characteristics that I've developed over the years. And lastly, I would say as the last chapter of that development with football is eventually, as I got older, towards nearly the men's or the adults level of competition, it evolved into a competitive space, and it allowed me to bring the best out of myself and also of my teammates to really push the limits and push beyond our potential. So here on the left, these are pictures with Xavier when we played in our senior year and won the championship. And on the right side, these are some examples of me playing for UP right before the UAAP season, and also club football at the youth level. So clearly, there's been a lot. Of, I would say, experiences that have brought me closer to the sport, and many ways in which the sport molded me into the person that I am today. But what I want to talk to you about and really dive deep a little bit more into today is what went wrong, right? Because and I'll just head back a little bit, when you look at this story, it seems like the trajectory leads towards being able to fulfill those dreams, the dreams that I set out for myself. Being able to play in the UAAP, being able to play at club football, and eventually being able to represent my country. But that didn't happen for multiple reasons, but I would just nail it down to two for the sake of our sharing today. The first is that right before the UAAP season began in my freshman year, I suffered a major knee injury, which was actually already the second knee injury that happened to me at that point in time, in which I tore my meniscus. So maybe think of it similar to an ACL, but just a different part. And this basically sidelined me from playing. And this really put me down because a lot of my peers, a lot of my teammates, those that I spent a lot of my time growing up with and dreamed of playing in UAAP together, a lot of them were able to live out that dream, while I felt like I was put on hold and I was set back from being able to achieve this. And in those 2 years of recovering, not being able to play, and you'll realize a bit, I'll share a bit later as to what happened instead of playing. But as I approached towards recovery after those 2 years, I was then very excited to come back, right? Because the 2 years were just my first 2 years of, I would say, college, which left me 2 more years of being able to play after that. But then, guess what happened, right? Just as I enter my 3rd year in college, ready to play again, the COVID pandemic. And of course, when the pandemic came, and once it was very clear to me and to all of us that this pandemic was here to stay for a couple of years, the dream of being able to play at least in UAAP and to continue on in many of my other dreams in life, at least for football, suddenly seemed so murky. And it wasn't so clear how I would be able to do that. And at that point, I would say, specifically in these 2 moments, and throughout the 4 years in college, there were so many times I would ask myself, how did it get this bad? How did I get to this low of a place when a few months or a few years prior, it seemed like I was having the time of my life, living the football dream, working towards what I wanted to be, and everything seemed to be going well. I felt really bad that I was never able to get the chance to live my dreams. But the key thing here is, this is actually where I found my North Star. And I don't think I would be standing in front of you today if I was able to achieve these dreams. Because basically what happened is the North Star that revealed itself came from the lowest points, came from the struggles, came from when the night was darkest, in a sense, right? The silver lining here was that all of these struggles served as a huge turning point to me. And this helped me find my North Star. Not to say that football and, let's say, living the dream as a professional player, as a national team player, is, I guess, not worthy of a North Star. It could have been, maybe in another version of me, in another world out there. But at least this version of me, in this world here today, my silver lining was revealed, I think, through the struggles that I went through. So on the left, you see the first 2 years of my stay in college, not being able to play competitively took, suddenly freed up a lot of time and a lot of energy for me to do other things. And because of this, I was able to explore other things that were important to me in my life. That was, at that point, being a business administration student, joining different internships, joining different organizations, Below is a picture of a marketing event that we used to do, headed by me, to basically promote the essence and the idea of marketing to the youth out there and see how it can be a tool for impact in society. So just broadening my perspectives and showing me what else was out there, right? And on the right side, when COVID came, supposedly being ready to play, but now unable to play because of the lockdown and because competitive play was stopped, it forced me to channel this love for sports in other ways, right? If I couldn't play, if I couldn't compete, if I couldn't represent the school, the love for football was not going to go away. It was still there, and it needed to find new channels and new outlets to show that love. And so what happened in those 2 years? On the left-hand side, this is my brother, Rich. He is a Down syndrome child who doesn't get to do much activities, doesn't get to live as normal of a life, maybe go out with friends and whatnot. Throughout the pandemic and for the most part of today, he is mostly staying at home. And what I did throughout these 2 years was, for him and for my mom, I actually set them up like with a daily exercise routine, a daily fitness routine, gave them like a dietary plan to follow. All of these things, right? Small habits that I picked up and developed over the years as an athlete, now channeling it out to them so that they could be healthier, so that they can be inspired to be more fit. And on the farther right side, I felt like it wasn't enough, and so I got into coaching. Something completely new, something completely different to me at the time. And apparently, just because you're a good player doesn't necessarily mean you would be a good coach. Something that I learned. And it really made me rethink of what my role in the sport could be, how else I could create an impact, and why sports means a lot to me. And so these turning points, these struggles, allowed me to fall in love with the sport all over again, but this time as a different person, at a different age, and at a different time in my life. It allowed me to turn what was once just a hobby and turned into a hot, fiery passion into an advocacy that was larger than just myself and what I wanted to do, but an advocacy that I could really broadcast and radiate to the world. And it changed my role and how I view my place in the sport as more than just a player, someone who can be sort of the best in the game and whatnot, to being a leader within the industry and to be a catalyst for its development, because I realized how much sports did for me. And all of these struggles made me realize, what can I do to enable that same experience for so many others? And now I look ahead to things that I want to do, right? I want to be able to build the sports industry. And what this means to me, I don't know yet, whether it comes in the form of making my own business, launching my own product or solution to the sports industry, getting involved maybe in academies or administrations, but anything to really strengthen the ecosystem and get more people to basically try out sports, something that I'm very advocate about. And the other thing that I'd love to continue doing is to coach and to organize. Two things that I currently try to do today: when I organize play with the alumni here in Xavier, and when I coach on my free time with the G8 Academy. Because I think these are things that enable the opportunity for so many people out there. Opportunities that maybe without some push and some involvement are not going to be as easily presentable to many other people out there, right? And so I want to leave you with 4 key messages. 4 key messages that I think come through my story. Maybe they didn't come out as clearly as I was sharing it, giving you the context, telling you what my life was all about. But I want to end by sharing with you these 4 straight up. Because I think regardless of your North Star, regardless of your journey, I think these are pockets of information and insights and ideas that you can carry with you as you journey towards your own North Star. The first is that life is a mix of planned and unplanned events, as I surprisingly only learned in college. Because prior to that, my life here in Xavier, all the way until high school, I would say went according to plan. So while it's good to plan and to plan for what you can, you really need to be open to what you cannot and to embrace the uncertainty. When I was in high school or even grade school, there was no idea, there was no way of knowing that I would get a huge injury that would set me back from playing and achieving my dreams. There was no way of knowing, probably, that a huge 2-year pandemic would hit our country and the rest of the world. And so it's super important to understand that life is a product of what you plan and what you do not plan. And that would be crucial in staying the course and working towards your North Star. The second is embracing your journey, because that journey is what defines your own unique North Star. And I'll give you a very clear example of this. There are probably millions other in the world who have sports as their North Star, who have sports as their advocacy. But no one else, I'm sure, has the same North Star as I do, because I know that my unique journey, my unique set of experiences and learnings and contexts and life situation is what makes my own North Star unique. It's what makes my view towards sports unique, unlike anyone else, right? And so, as you work towards this destination of a true North Star, embrace the journey, right? Because that journey is what defines your own unique North Star. The third point I want to highlight is that who you are today is not necessarily and is probably not going to be who you are in the future. Okay, take that piece of advice from me. Again, when I was in high school growing up, I thought, okay, I know what I want to be and I know what I want to do in this world. And 4 years later, after graduating college, I also thought that okay, this is who I am, this is what I want to be, this is exactly how it will go. And then after that, a few years of working, that was clearly not the case. And so it requires constant redefining of what happiness and what success means to me. Because if happiness and success for me today still means playing in UAAP, playing professional football, when I clearly have other things going on for me and another outlook towards how I push sports in my life, then I would just continue life maybe miserably. And the last one that I would want to end with is just a message and a call to action for all of you. Everyone already has their own North Star. You just need to find it within you. For me, growing up, and maybe I'll take the last 30, 45 seconds for this. Growing up, I felt the pressure, both externally but also internally from within myself, to find exactly what it was that drove me every day, something that gave me purpose and something that motivated me. And I just couldn't think that it was football, maybe because of how some other people think of sports. Maybe, there are a couple of people who think sports is just something you do for fun. How will you have a successful life and whatnot? And so I was pressured to find what else out there could be my purpose. Until I faced my huge injuries, until the COVID pandemic and other struggles along the way, I realized that the answer was in me all along. And that what I truly cared about, what got me up every day, and what inspires me to do so well in it and also outside of it is sports, in realizing how impactful it was to me and the potential of how impactful it could be to others. And this is a journey that I'm still trying to chart out on my own. Still trying to figure out how sports exactly is my North Star and what I can do to make the journey even better for me. And my call to action today and my challenge to all of you is find that North Star within you. Because believe it or not, it's already there. You just have to open your eyes, listen to yourself, and be very open to where life takes you. And with that, I end my talk. I hope you continue on a great journey towards the rest of your lives, towards your North Star. It's the best journey you can ever take. Thank you. Thank you so much.